Are live, it looks like. All right. How's everyone doing tonight? Dylan, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It was a good episode, kind of calm, but still a very good episode.
Yeah, it's always nice to have a little bit more, like, whenever there's a lot of craziness, be able to kind of have a bit of a reset episode where we can just kind of step back and kind of analyze where everyone's at without having a bunch of flashiness. It looked like we were going to get some possible blindsides tonight, but we ended up just kind of there was a lot of talk of that, and they have to have some of that to fill the episode to keep people on. But I don't mind the outcome that we had. We won't get too far ahead, but the type of outcome we had tonight, I think is nice to have every once in a while, so we can kind of reset without having those mid-season episodes where we recap the entire first half of the season. We haven't
Yep.
had to deal with one of those in forever, and I'm so grateful because it is a complete waste of time. So,
I don't
but yeah,
disagree.
I enjoyed this episode. For me, the biggest thing that I enjoyed from it was straight out the gate. There was a big disclaimer, and it said Dylan Michaels was wrong.
Oh,
He he got it wrong.
for what? What did I get wrong?
You, sir,
Oh,
said
oh.
that the idol was still in play because he had slipped it back under to Janine,
Did
and
you
that
go back
never
and
happened.
look at it? Did you go back and look
I
at it?
did, I did,
Did she not
and
do
it
the
was
cup thing?
it. She might have, but that does not mean that's what it was in reference to,
It
and
it looked very suspiciously like it, but
maybe.
the very first thing that we hear is yes, it did get slipped to somebody else. So I
It
was
did.
50% right,
Well,
50%
I'll
wrong.
give you 50, but for me, I feel like, and they didn't say this, so I am putting the buggy before the horse a little bit. I'm kind of I'm kind of going under a assumed stance that they took, but I feel like that was a way of saying, hey, the votes were already being read. You can't just slip it, kind of like we talked about last week.
I was gonna be mad if they let that happen.
Yes.
Genuinely said that last week, like should
Yeah.
not happen. The way
Yeah.
that it ended up happening, which I mean we can reveal that now, because that's literally what ended up happening in the episode was
Yeah.
Janine ended up passing her immunity necklace or immunity idol. It's now just a keychain at this point,
Yeah.
which another thing to get into. But she passed that on to Dwight, who ended up going home, and they left out the fact that Dwight was getting really nervous, and so he then passes it on to Jesse.
Yep.
And that is a huge, huge deal because it now there was a different precedent set. There's a different precedent in the idea that someone can have their idol stolen from them even if they're still in the game. That's just as big a deal as anything that's
But see,
happened
we've
before.
had we've had stolen idols before. We've had things similar to that. If you recall, I'm sorry, my eyes are getting blurry, so I'm putting these on. If you recall, uh, again, I'm not meaning to, but Game Changers was Suri when. But no. Listen.
I'm gonna get a sign that
I
says
know
Dakota's favorite player,
it's not.
Suri.
It's not. But I
Get
keep
that little
referencing this
shrine.
season. I keep referencing this season. With Sari, she tried to steal Sarah's advantage, and it specifically said in the notes this cannot be stolen. So to me, that implies that unless it says that in general, yes, it can be stolen. So the rules without one, I know I'm not trying to refer
When
back, but
when was the last time that they let us read the entire script for an immunity idol? Because
that's
all,
true.
all it ever says is congratulations, you have found a hidden immunity. That's
Yeah,
all we get to read.
yeah.
Every single time they show the very top half, and then there's the lawyer half, the part that the people that want to know the fine print details, that's where they're going to find their stuff. And so genuinely I feel like it says somewhere in there this cannot be stolen, like, taken from you without an advantage.
I don't know.
Like,
I want to see it. I want to see it and find
so
out
do I.
because I've
So
always been kind of under the impression that you could. I didn't like it, but I feel like you've always been under the impression that you could. And so, that's why we've had issues of people rummaging through someone's bag. Because I feel like if you can go through someone's bag and see what they have, it's
You can't steal it
you.
though.
Yeah, I don't know. There's been definitive ones that we know, and that wasn't the only example. That's just the first one that I remembered that we know where they have not been able to be stolen. So we know that. Um, but yeah, it was interesting. It was kind of weird the way it was a roundabout type thing, but it did. It got passed along, and we all thought Dwight had it. That was some sneaky editing on their part.
Very good.
Very
I
good.
I actually prefer that. Genuinely, I prefer that they edited that out
Yeah.
and didn't show us at the end of last episode. It felt like we were waiting for something. Like
Yeah.
it was a good cliffhanger for last episode, and then we get the payoff. And it was
Yeah.
very well done at the very beginning of this episode. How they did it. It felt like you come back from tribal. It was like 3 minutes. We're into the next day. We're moving on. Like it was a very progressive episode.
Yes. Yes, and I like that because the very first thing in my notes is Janine says she didn't get her idol because we had thought that she might have had it, and there were a couple things that happened before that, but I just couldn't get to my notes quick enough, and so we just kind of zipped past everything, and so
The only thing from my notes there was Cody, Jesse, and Sammy all decided to flip.
yeah,
And so Cody and Jesse were the ones that clued in Sammy, and then Sammy didn't talk to his alliance, and so that
got
ding turned
distracted.
me off.
All right, yeah.
Sammy didn't talk to his alliance at all whatsoever, and so he just flips and goes with the majority, which you'll see throughout the rest of this episode kind of puts him in a core 7 situation.
Yep.
Without doing any, well, I mean, getting the information is gameplay, but without really doing a lot as far as gameplay. He just kind of gets plopped into this 7.
Yep, for sure. So yeah, we see and talking about Sammy, he was even talking to Janine because she was freaking out, and he's telling her, look, you're actually in a better spot now that you don't have your idol, which I was like, okay, sure. And we'll see whether or not that's true, but I was like, I mean, I feel like it's not bad for him to tell her that, because she is kind of like scrounging for anything at this point, and to have any type of hope to hold on to, if you can be what's providing that, that's awesome. So I feel like there really wasn't anything other. I mean, yeah, you could have told her straight up, yeah, man, you're screwed now. You thought you were screwed last week, you're screwed now. But what good is that going to do? Checking my headphones up. So, but yeah, and then word gets around that her idol's gone.
That was the big thing.
Yeah.
The big thing about the episode was genuinely everybody. You saw in that little thing, everybody talked to everybody.
Yep.
Except, I did want to notice this. I have in big bold letters on my notes. It says, Carla is the only person that can keep her mouth shut.
Yep.
She literally, just throughout that entire process, she just listens. Just sits there and she's, yeah, that's some juicy stuff over there.
Yep.
I'm gonna.
And we'll come back around to it, but there was also another point where I was like, she's really doing good here based on the way she responded to something.
Yep.
And we'll get to that later on. That's after the challenge. But so yeah, and then like we said, word gets around, and then we see that Dwight gave it to Jesse, and so here we now have 2 people on the list of has a secret idol that no one knows about, which is Carla and Jesse. Very reminiscent of older seasons where there weren't as many advantages, there weren't as many idols, and so it was a lot easier to keep what you had under wraps. Now, it is much harder because a lot of the time the advantages you're getting are from you getting special attention, whether that's going off to an exile island or publicly being given something. So it's kind of reminiscent of older seasons. We don't get that as much, and so I do think it's worth noting and worth taking note of that we have that on the tally list.
There's a couple cool things about that, though. Jesse now has 2 idols in his pockets,
Yes,
which was
yes, he's
really,
got
really
2.
cool. Because he still has Cody's, and he has the secret one. Now, something to look out for that I think is going to become a thing later on is if James asks him, "Do you have an idol?" Which idol does he give to James? Or does
didn't
he
think
give
about
him
that.
both of them?
I didn't think about that. I would assume he only has to give one.
But which one
Uh,
does he get to pick?
I think so. I think because the other one that he has didn't officially belong to him.
But they've already set the precedent
Yeah,
that if something is handed to you,
exactly.
it's
So that's
yours.
what I'm saying. So I think that you could very easily say that it's his choice. He gets to pick.
Okay.
That's what I'm going with. I could be
I like
wrong.
the Dak Chat's ruling. I do. That's
I
genuinely if I was
I yeah, I could be wrong, but that's kind of where my head's at with that specifically. I feel like you have both these equally, like they're both in your possession now. What you decide to tell the people about it in the future is up to you. But yeah, I mean, I feel like they belong to him at this point. So, and Mona's in the chat. She says, "Hi, hey Mona, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for coming and hanging out. It's awesome to have you here." So, I will say I didn't take a lot of notes. I don't really take a lot of notes during these segments
that's my
unless there's
job.
something really big, huh?
I said
Yes,
that's my
your
job.
Well, so during the kind of personal, at heart type of segments, unless there's like something of importance, I don't really take a lot of notes on those. I do just want to say, I know we talked a lot last week about sappy moments and getting too
Not
out
my
of
thing.
hand. Not my thing either. This is still the way you do it without having to have Jeff force group hugs on everyone. Is
Yeah.
let's just see people's stories, and I'm fine with these quick 30-second to 60-second stories. I most of the time I don't care. I actually was really intrigued by Owens. I enjoyed listening to his story quite a bit personally. That doesn't alter my opinion on the ooey gooey mushiness, but I still enjoyed it for what we had, and so yeah, that's how you do the humanity aspect. Just let them tell their own stories. Stop trying to force observations. It's ridiculous.
Well, and genuinely, like that's how you would feel. He felt left out because he was not a part of the
Yes,
vote for the second
yes,
time
and
in
that
a
was
row.
that was a very big point too. He's like, this is very
Correlates.
reminiscent. Yeah.
Yeah, and it correlates to his,
Yes.
as everybody has their own arc as a backstory.
Yep.
Like, you know, uh, yeah, no, it was a very
Yeah.
good way to transition it from one thing to another. It was
Yep.
fantastic.
So Jesse's talking about the seven, and this is where we first start hearing seeds of the seven. He says it was him, James, Cassidy, Carla, Sammy, Ryan, and Cody. Did I get all those right?
That is
Okay.
100%.
All right. So it was those seven that were behind the vote, and now they kind of feel like, okay, let's just move forward. Let's steamroll this, and then once we get to seven, we'll hash it out. Uh, the biggest word that we hear is from James, and he talks about wanting to get Owen out next. That's who he's concerned with, and so that's really where his goal is going into the next tribal. Depending on who wins immunity, and Sammy is kind of on the other side of that. Sammy's kind of feeling on the outs. He says that actually. He doesn't want them to feel his distrust, but he kind of feels like the seven is a sinking ship, and he's ready to kind of break away from that and make some bigger moves. So we kind of have a little bit of a narrative going into the next immunity challenge. What do you think? Is there anything that stood out to you in these talks?
Sammy he's playing a good game. I immediately wrote down where did I put it? Sammy talking too much. He's gonna get nervous.
Yep.
So he's doing it the right way. He went as you can see later on in the episode. He does it the right way, which is something that I appreciate. But right now we're at 10 or not.
Thought we were at 11.
11. Okay. We're at 11. Like, these are moves that he should be
Yeah,
making.
we were at 11 for sure because we'll get into the challenge, but
Yeah. We're at 11. We need to be making those moves closer to 7 because you're going to put that target on your back real early into the merge. And we actually finally get into what I am going to call the merge because genuinely this is where the jury starts happening. And the jury is the most important thing. Now everybody you vote out actually matters.
I
And
missed the time where the jury and the merge was at the same time, and
yeah,
that's not the case anymore.
not the case.
But I missed
Or at least
that
for this season.
because, yeah, yeah, not for this season, but we'll see. I hope they bring back because it is a very easy, distinct visual. Um, first one out for the jury segment. I mean, at least once you make it to the jury or the merge, first one out of that going out. So, but yeah, I don't disagree. There's not, and he even said it himself, or was it him? Someone said it. I'm pretty sure it was him that Ryan really is the biggest target. Maybe it was Gabler, one of the two, but they were talking that Ryan really is the biggest physical threat. You can see it because they were all talking about how little they've eaten, how much they've burned, and I wasn't picking up on the foreshadowing, honestly, that they were talking about with how much they were under eating. I was like, man, we're spending a lot of time on this, but it progresses into an offer at the immunity challenge. So before we jump into that, was there anything else you were wanting to touch on?
I did want to actually. I'm trying to lose weight myself, and I think I'm going to start going on the Survivor diet because genuinely,
I know
Carla's looking good. She's losing a ton of weight.
Gabler's looking. He was like I came in with a muffin top. And who was it? Wasn't it Penner that like created a diet? He lost a bunch of weight. He lost like at least at the time record weight. I think it still was pretty high up there, if not the record. And then went home and lost even more. And I don't know if he wrote a book, but he definitely like set something up as like the Survivor diet. Yeah, I remember them talking about that. So we've seen. I mean, we've also seen some people that are out there well into the jury and see their ponderosas and they've like gained a couple pounds because they just came back from a food challenge or whatever. But yes, so I don't disagree. I was kind of every time they start talking about losing weight, I think the same thing. Because I wouldn't say that I'm trying to lose weight. I have a desire to lose weight, and I put forth no effort. So, or it's only a couple days, but that's a whole nother sob story.
I've been on a diet for years, off and on.
Yeah.
I mean,
You have. Yeah, just a couple years ago, you were like this big.
Hey.
No, you were like 2 years ago. You're not anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Anyway, do you still have that hoodie you bought?
What hoodie?
You had that red hoodie you bought because you like lost a bunch of weight. You were like, got this hoodie now. You wore it everywhere.
My wife's.
Okay, yeah, it's not yours anymore.
My wife.
Yeah, none of my clothes belong to me. My wife steals all my clothes, whether they fit or don't.
Yeah, same.
So, all right, so we get to the challenge. It's a very anxiety-inducing challenge, especially for me.
What?
Yeah, I feel like it is because you're trying to balance at such a high rate. I mean, there's a couple others that really get me. The one where you have to hold the ball, that one messes me up.
I know that's my challenge.
I know. Okay. And watching it, no, but they've done it on the show.
They do a little ball. I do weight.
The blocks, yes.
Yeah.
And watching that challenge, even though I never made it far enough to compete, has always given me much anxiety watching. And I've always been like, man, if I ever make it there, I can't do that.
Rough. That's why
it's
a final challenge as opposed to anything else.
It's like the ultimate knockout round.
It is.
Mona says, I am 39 days into a 30-day no sugar, no grains challenge. That is awesome. It is so hard. I know Dylan had a lot of success doing keto whenever you were trying that. I know that was at least during that time. I don't know if you have since, but I know you went through a phase where it really worked. I tried, not to say that you are doing keto specifically, but that is kind of similar to it. I tried, and I never knew I could feel my body craving carbs like that, and it was I knew what my body was wanting, and it was not fun. But I got to get back on something. But anyway, that's a whole other story. I self-pity all day, every day about being overweight. But anyway, so we have Jeff propose an offer to Castaways, and he says that I will offer you 5 people to sit out. He said you should be expecting this landmark, which I'm like, you've really only been doing it for a couple seasons, so I wouldn't quite go that far, but that's cool. He was like, "You
The
should be
landmark
expecting this by now."
the landmark I think he's talking about is physically, like he said, first person is going to join the jury, and
Oh, okay,
I think that's the landmark he's
okay,
talking about, because once you
okay.
get here, now hey, we'll give you some rice. Like, we're not animals. We'll give you some rice now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but he says 5 people. If I get 5 people to sit out, you can have this extra rice that'll last everyone for 4 days or more if you ration it better. And I was wondering right off the bat, are you going to negotiate? Because I think it was Ryan. Was Ryan the one that asked?
James.
James. Okay.
James.
James asked, well, can we do it for 4? And he was like, no negotiating, which immediately threw me off. And I'm sure I'm not the only one, because in the past he has encouraged negotiation. Said,
Yeah.
please come to me, we will talk, and I want to see that. I understand where he was coming from like, this is the cheapest offer you're going to get until next time. I get that. But I feel like for as much as he was like pumping the air into, yeah, negotiate, we want to have this exchange, this economy within the tribal system, I don't like the way he just completely was like, no, that's bad. How dare you even offer to do that? I don't know. I thought it was a little bit counterintuitive to what they've been
I'm
trying to establish in past seasons.
I'm waiting for a time where they say, you know what, that's a great offer. How about this? You double the amount of rice and we'll have 7 people sit out. Like, I'm
Yeah.
waiting for that day where like somebody has the gumption to just be like, we have a final 7, right? Like, hey, guys, yeah, we got 7.
Yep. Yeah. So that would be cool. That would be cool. I'd like to see something like that, because it's not like they can't get more rice. I'm sure he can easily have extra bags into there. And if they are not thinking that far ahead, shame on them.
Yeah, definitely.
So, but yeah, Jeff says, nope, it's non-negotiable this time. It's only going to go up, which I'm curious, does that mean even though they took the offer this week, are they still going to be able to, are they going to be offered more next week? I wouldn't think so.
I don't think so. Genuinely, like the way that he threatened a little
Yeah.
aggressively, but I don't necessarily know like what they could have gotten, or like I don't know what the threat was kind of tailored to do.
Yeah.
Genuinely, it didn't make sense where he said it was going to go up next week.
Because I get if they feel like, okay, every season we say we're going to set it at 5, and then every season they come back at 4, and then it's always going to be the same thing. I get that, but I feel like there's got to be a better approach than, we want to encourage this haggling and this negotiation tactics and really add new aspects to the game. We like this one, and then immediately just be like, no, bad, shame on you.
Yeah.
It was just very abrupt. So that's why I'm like, I get it, but I feel like you could have handled it better, and I didn't like that. That is kind of the more savage Jeff that we're used to.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I
Good to
mean,
see
I
him
guess I'll
again.
take it. Yes, exactly. Good to see him again. I guess I'll take it if anything. But like, it's like they're listening to what we say, and then they just do it all wrong. But that's whatever. But we do actually get 5 sit-outs. Sammy was the first one to really start speaking up. He was like, I'm hungry. I get it. I might be doing something stupid, but I'm hungry, so I'm gonna take the bait. James follows right after him, and then was it Carla or Jesse? One of the two. I think it was Carla.
Cassidy.
Well, Cassidy was the last one. I think Carla kind of said something like she had like a cut on her hands or something, and so
Yeah.
she was kind of afraid of where being able to hold on to it very well. And then I think it was her. It was either her or Jesse, and then the other one followed. And then at the very end, they kind of struggled getting that 5th one. But Cassidy was like, I guess. And you could see like whenever she did it, she was looking around, seeing is anyone else gonna do it. But she went ahead and did it, and we'll see if that pays off. Like Jeff says, after they all fall off, maybe your tribe will appreciate the sacrifice, and maybe you're gonna get one of you are gonna get blindsided at night. But we'll see. We'll see how that unfolds. But this is one of my favorite types of challenges, just because it really is anyone's game. There are some advantages one way or another, but really, I mean, besides the first couple people that you know are probably going to fall off, after the first two, maybe three, I mean, you got six people. So, I mean, really, there was only one or two people on there that you kind of like, okay, I know they're probably going to fall off. The rest is, it's really a crapshoot. And it really just depends on. I think one thing I noticed was I feel like the way that they were stacking those polls, it depends on how far in you push on yours. I feel like there was a little bit level of control whenever you were putting that in, making sure that
Yep.
it kind of the ends completely touched,
Mhm.
which would give you a little bit more bend, especially if you continue to do that. So there's not a ton of strategy, but there is a little bit to try and make sure you're doing it right and make sure every piece is secure, especially when you're under a high stress situation. The higher it goes. So, but ultimately, every time we go into this, it's almost impossible to predict who's going to win. And we had a very interesting challenge. I know you like talking about the challenges the most. So, is there any key points, anything you wanted to touch on?
Well, so we've actually seen this challenge several times before.
Yep.
The one that most sticks out is the one where Joe passed out doing this
Yep.
challenge.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
this is a definite variation. There is a lip to it, and they had a ball
Mhm.
on the top, as opposed to back then they had a tiki torch that sat on it, very similar to how we do
Yep.
uh,
I remember that.
the mushroom challenge or the Statue of Liberty challenge in our Survivor. Very similar to that, where they would stack them up and up and up. This one they did interlocking, where there was a pole sticking down and you clicked it together,
Yep.
as opposed to past seasons it looked more like PVC pipe, which it wasn't PVC pipe, but
Yep.
they would kind of slide into each other where you had to like tighten them down. This one was more of a click. Okay, let's get to the next
Mhm.
one. All right, and so that was I mean, more like it was a really straightforward challenge.
It was.
Half the people were knocked out beforehand, so I mean, really, I kind of I sent you the text as soon as Noel sent out. I thought this was the perfect opportunity to take out Noel
Yep.
at the very end, and you actually see a couple people the second she falls out. They do the whole like looking at each other. I was like, oh, okay, like
Uh-huh.
I see something there. And it ended up coming down to Cody and Owen, and I'll let you pick up from there because genuinely, it was a good challenge.
It
Like,
was, and it was a good matchup towards the end. They have lots of fake outs. There's one point where they played the music right where it's like dun 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 dun, where like it falls
yeah,
but it didn't, and then they just like dun 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 and just like completely switched it. I noticed it. I noticed it, and so yeah, they really faked us out. I will say the other thing I'll say about the challenge was I thought it was like really. I never noticed them actually spray painting like whole logs before that like were making up like the little individual arenas instead of
yeah,
just like the blocks. I was like, that's cool. They just like grabbed limbs off trees, stripped the wood, and just painted it.
good.
Very very detailed, but I like the prop stuff. I like the prop side of stuff. I think that's always cool. So I pay attention to that stuff. But we do get during this challenge. I'm thinking, okay, we haven't heard from Cody much this episode. We've heard a lot from Owen, like we talked about earlier. We got his his backstory, and I was like, are they going to give us the foreshadowing or the red herring? And I was kind of expecting the red herring at this point, but they didn't, and we ended up getting the foreshadowing, and Owen won immunity, and I was pretty happy when I saw it. Not gonna lie, I still like Owen. He's a fun guy. I like this season as opposed to so many others. There's so many people that I like right now,
Yeah,
and Owen he's not the highest, but I do like him a lot. And so after the episode that he had and him talking about how low he felt and how on the outs he felt, I was really happy to see that for him, and we did get an Owen win tonight. He said something that kind of threw me off, and I didn't actually rewind, and I should have. So maybe you caught it better. But he said he's been at the bottom of the seven. I'm assuming he means that he recognizes that there's a seven, and he felt like he was kind of under them because I was like, you weren't in it. I wrote down all the names. You're not in it. But
yeah.
he does. He kind of feels like he's below them, and so he wants to be able to use this and turn the tides. And we'll see. We'll see if he's able
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
But yeah, Owen wins. Any other points you wanted to bring out before we move on?
No, let me see here. Honestly, no. Owen winning the challenge. Oh, there is one thing. So last week we had that big thing where it was down to Gabler, uh, oh shoot, Cody and Owen, and they all gave the reasons why they
Yeah.
want to win and stuff like that. I
Yeah.
really felt like that was a good transition into this episode where we still
Yeah.
got like a final two between Owen and Cody, kind of cementing Owen
Gabler
as
was third, wasn't he? Wasn't he third?
I
Third or
probably
fourth?
yeah.
Third or fourth? I think
Yeah,
third though.
yeah, no, genuinely. So I think that was something that like kind of stuck out to me was like, okay, like they're setting it up where these three are going to be your challenge guys,
And you
and
know
so
what? I want to say, talking about that point you're making, we're jumping a little bit ahead, but we're going into it because next to my notes I have, Ryan wants Janine, and then we kind of start seeing a flip back on Ryan. But as we talked about earlier in the episode, there's a big target put on Ryan's back because he's a big threat, and I don't like if someone is a physical threat just based on appearance. And, you can see them climbing trees, you can see them able to go catch fish, whatever. I get it, it's very valid. But I also think that what's more valid is who is actually winning the competitions.
oh,
And
100%.
Ryan, yes, he was on Coco, and Coco was a dominant force pretty much the entire pre merge. But now that he's on his own, he's really not outperforming on a super high level. I mean, there's certainly people below him. He's definitely better than some, but he's not even in the top three. So
Yeah, I agree with you there. I really think that Cody's got to kind of put his head down for a little bit
yeah,
because
I agree.
if he keeps performing the way he does, it's going to be a big target on his butt. And then kind of going into what you were saying, like Ryan is doing, he's still doing big things. And that's why people are perceiving him as a big threat.
Yeah,
He's the one that's going catching. He caught 21 fish today doing just Hawaiian sling
that's
and stuff
crazy.
like that. It's
21,
21. They were little bitty. I mean, they were
but
itty bitty,
still, I
but
mean,
still
that's
21.
21 landed shots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's even harder getting those smaller ones. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's like trying to actually hit your target. So, yeah, he really was. And they mentioned that. They were talking about because Ryan straight out the gate, he's like, "Look, I just want to I'm going to go catch fish like half hour from now, whatever, but I kind of want to basically he's telling everyone, I want to set myself up before I go, make sure you guys aren't going to turn around and flip on me, and then
Yep.
I'm going to go do my thing," which he is trying to make it appear as if it's for the tribe. And maybe it really is, but the tribe is they're not necessarily denying that, but they're like, dude, we're good. You're focusing your attention on the wrong stuff. We just got rice. No one cares about your stupid fish. Because he's like, I'm going to show them rice is great, but fish is where it's at. And everyone's like, no one cares about your fish. We just,
Yeah.
5 people sat out, and
Yep.
that was much more of a sacrifice than what you're doing going and getting fish.
Yep.
You need to reel it back in, and they just can't hold focus of them. And this really reminded me of, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing, but it really reminded me of a few weeks ago when he was like, okay, I'm just gonna
Trying to do that to
I'm just yeah. He's like I'm just gonna basically pretend that the target's on me and act a certain way and keep telling her she's good. And he was doing too much. He is overplaying himself.
Yep.
He is working too hard. And if he was actually exercising that energy into trying to find ways to not just protect himself. That's great. Protect yourself. That's what you need to do. But you really should be focusing on who is your target and what do you want to happen, and not just throw a name out there and be like, okay, we want Janine. All right, that's good. You guys kind of circulate that, because it started to happen. Because Cody even started to talk about, hey, he talks to Jesse and he's like, let's get Janine out. And they're kind of like, okay, but then they're like, we don't really want to do that. And it really looked like Ryan was going to be in a bad spot. So it's just another example to me of he's dodging these spots where he should have gone out, and he's just barely missing. Um, uh, I have a couple other points to cover about it too, but I'll let you
I,
talk about it a little bit.
I'd rather be lucky than good. Okay,
Yeah.
he's doing Aussie things without being Aussie like, if that
Yes.
makes sense. He's
Yes.
doing
No,
all
I
the
know
correct
exactly what you mean.
things. He's doing all the correct things. He's gathering firewood. He's doing the stuff around camp that makes him important, but he's lacking the social game 1,000%. He's lacking that critical. He's lacking awareness, just flat out. He's lacking awareness of who is doing good, who is his close allies, because it didn't take nothing for Sammy to immediately go up to Carla and say, and that was telling that Carla was the first person that Sammy approached. Sammy went up to Carla and said, "Hey, like Janine is kind of an easy target. Why don't we go after Ryan? Like I know it's kind of a part of the seven, but like these are the moments that, make your resume. This is the first jury. Like this drive, you're driving the boat if you take out
Yep.
one of the seven." And so I personally hate that style. I personally stick with the seven and intermingle and get those bonds within the seven, and make sure you have a solid four going into that seven.
Yep.
Is what I would do. But no, it was very telling that Sammy went straight to Carla.
I think so too. And she just kind of rolled right with it. Um, you know, and he's trying to pull out. He's like, look, Ryan's a big threat. He's out here. We need to take him out. And look at him. He's just off in the seat. And you said something that you said he's trying to be Aussie like without being Aussie. And
Yeah.
there is one of like one sentence from Survivor that sticks in my head more than anything, and it was and I looked it up. It's the second season I ever watched was with Ozzy and Coach South
Ozzy and
Pacific.
Coach, yeah.
So that was the second season. My first one was
The
21.
the Holy Wars. That's what I call
Yes,
it.
between Russell and Rob. So that was my first, and then Redemption was my second. But so that was 22. But anyway, one catchphrase that sticks in my head that I will never forget is it was Redemption Island, and Ozzy kept going out first, and he would fight his way back in.
Give
He'd
him
come
a
back,
fish and then
give them the
send them.
fish, and send them
Okay.
on their way. And
Yeah.
I will never forget that because that was his mentality. He's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to use this as as an advantage. I'm going to try and help feed people, but at the same time, I'm playing a game. And I mean, yeah, it's a little different being on Redemption, but you can see where his fighter mentality was, and we're just not getting that from Ryan.
Ryan
Just
doesn't
wants
have that.
he
Yeah.
wants to make big moves. He wants to be the one setting in motion, but all he's doing is just going at the flint and just hoping that a spark lights, and it normally does. A spark lit, and Cody was like, "Yeah, cool," and Cody tried to run with it, but he's not nurturing the flame, and
If
it's
if
turning into nothing.
Ryan was two separate characters from Survivor, he would be Ozzy, and there was a character. He was a, I say character. There
I
was a
know.
guy. There was a guy that he had a military background. I think his name was Jabir or Jabari, or he was a military guy. He got sand in his eye, and that's why he had to be
Can't remember.
medically evac.
Yeah, it's
But he is a mixture of those two, between the laziest guy that doesn't want to do anything socially, and one of the most, challenge beast guys.
Yeah.
Like he's a weird mix between the two, and just the mentality of, all right, I don't want to have to deal with all the social politics, but I can go ahead and I can go spearfishing for 3 hours
Yeah.
in the day.
But and it's the thing is that's very true. But he wants to be the one making decisions. He wants to feel like he's influencing
Thinks.
stuff. Yeah, he wants to
Thinks.
think that he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's not actually like again, he's lighting a flame and the flame starts, but he is not nurturing that fire and it just fizzles out every time. And he is just running off trying to be like, well, I'm hoping that if he even tells Jeff, he's like, I'm hoping that if I feed everyone enough that they'll want to keep me. It's like, then why don't you go and actually give them a reason, like convince them to not want to?
Yeah.
because you're not doing that. You're just abandoning it and trying to
Or
take the
don't
easy way out.
or don't give him an opportunity, because genuinely,
Yeah.
if I ever got to play this game, I'm not like, I love spearfishing. Love
Yep.
it absolutely. Like I'm gonna actually, this next coming up July, have a spearfishing trip planned. And literally I would love to be out there on the sea doing that. I wouldn't do that in this game, because you need to have your 4 or 5 people by the fire, and you stay there. You
Yep.
stay there until a decision is made, and you keep everybody close to you.
Hmm.
You don't try and dictate, hey, don't go off nowhere, but you literally, you find the majority of people and you just cling, and you start walking around like a group of people like that. That's what you have to
Yep.
do to make sure the numbers are 100% correctly. That was the big thing that I think Philip said that Boston Rob did the best, was he was able to talk and have communication with everybody, keep everybody in a specific area.
Yep.
And like, that's why you see at the very beginning of Survivor, after that first challenge, no one leaves the fire.
Hmm.
Everybody will stay right in that little pit. First one that does, they're the ones going home.
Yep. Yep. So I agree. All right. So we get to further on because, Carla, it gets to Carla, hey, let's get Ryan out. She says she wants to get another strong guy out and, or get a strong guy out. And Cassidy was also really hoping to get another strong guy out. And so we go into tribal, and James is not really on the Ryan train right now. He wants to still go after Janine, and we see we see how that culminates because, like I said, Cassidy's not very happy with it, and also too, we hear from Cassidy, and she is still holding on to the one time Ryan tried to vote for her, and it is biting so hard, and just it's like I've said before, someone can have whatever reason they want to go after you, and something that is that small. We see someone like her that really doesn't have a lot of other ammunition in the game right now, and so she's just kind of using whatever she has. And you voted for her one time, she's held on that, and she is not letting go, and she wants Ryan out. So we have basically mundane tribal. There wasn't a whole lot that went on. Were there any big points that you wanted to cover?
Yes, I have here in my notes. They did a really cool panoramic shot where they show that this tribal has zero roof. Normally they have a roof over the tribal, and they had a really cool shot if you go back and watch that tribal where they actually show like the big scaffold. They're not scaffolding, but like the big structures that they built
Yeah.
for the tribal councils. They show a
Oh yeah.
big, huge shot of all the, the bowl is kind of the symbol for this season with all of the little, you see it on the voting out,
Yep.
whatever that thing is called, but
The
they,
urn.
they urn, yeah, that's what I was thinking, but I didn't know if that was correct.
That's
But
right.
yeah, and then you see it all over the place. You just see a bunch of hook 'em horns just all
Yep.
over the place, and it looks really, really cool.
Yep. Yep. So that's the biggest news we have from Tribal. Basically, no one uses their advantages, and the vote does end up sticking with a vote for Janine. And we see that Janine is the one out. We did have a good tease. I mean, I really thought there was a good chance Ryan was going home. But as much as I complain about Ryan, he's still pretty entertaining, and so I'm excited to at least see another week with him. But we'll see what happens. I enjoy watching him, but I don't have a lot of faith in him being able to stick it out much longer. Just because he's, like we said, he's not doing anything to get that target off of his back, and I mean, he's not doing anything to actively try and change the target either. So he's that. I don't think we're going to see much more of him, but we'll see.
I do think there was one big takeaway because Cassidy decided that she was going to vote for Ryan. So there was 2 votes for Ryan, and then the rest were for Janine. So either Cassidy was not told, or Cassidy is making a statement.
Yeah,
And if she's making a
I don't think
statement,
she's making a statement. I don't think
well,
she's.
either
But
way, I
yeah,
think it works out really good for Ryan because he can go back to camp and be kind of like, hey, who voted for me in this group? And if Cassidy decides to stick her neck out and say, oh, I did, then there's going to be a war between the 7,
Yeah.
and we could really
I think
see.
there's a strong chance that it was Sammy and Cassidy. Did you go back and see if any extra votes were cast for Ryan?
No, it was Janine and Cassidy.
Okay. Oh, it did show the actual votes. Yeah. Okay. So you're going off that. Yes. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So that, and I was already kind of thinking that. Well, I'll get into that here in a second. But yeah, I don't like that move. Voting.
No, neither do I. It makes zero sense.
It really does, and I mean, Survivor. A lot of times, players really do vote independently, but I still don't feel like that was a very good area to touch because yeah, there's going to be that question who voted who, and she really doesn't have much of an excuse. So
It's gonna be rough for next week because genuinely, like I said, there could be an implosion, or they can just say, you know what, for the good of the tribe, let's have a final 7 here. But now, I feel like Sammy, Cody, and Jesse now have a really good footing in the game, in the sense that one of those 3 is gonna either sway Ryan or either sway Cassidy if they choose to stick with the 7. And that's what I was saying earlier. Instead of trying to pick out the 7, let's work inside of the 7 to work something out.
Yep. All right, so let's get to our MVPs of the week. Gonna be go ahead and start wrapping things up here because there's really not much more. So, Dylan, I'll let you go first this week. Who is your? Are we doing 1 or 2?
I'm doing 1.
Okay.
I got 1.
I think we could go back and forth, but I like the 1. So, who is your
You know
MVP
what?
of the week?
I've gone every single week. I already have mine written down. I'm not going to show it to you, so I'm going to let you go first.
Oh, you've gone every single week, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
So I've had the same MVP week after week, and
Yes.
I'm not going with Carla this week, and it's not necessarily knocking her down a notch.
Carla Cherie.
Carla Cherie.
Carla Cherie.
Yeah, not necessarily knocking her down, but I'm still really happy with where she's at right now before the vote. After the vote, we'll see what implications there are. I do think it was a dumb move, and I feel like it really sets her back. I was already kind of thinking that initially, so I still like everything else, but I'm kind of nervous for my MVP this week, and this is kind of a one-off, and we'll see if it goes any further. But my MVP this week is James, because and you're probably thinking why. Well, part of it is because I don't have a whole lot of other people. I wanted to pick Owen, and I'll tell you why. I wanted to pick Owen, but he wasn't quite able to maneuver the vote the way he was wanting to. Sammy was someone I was really hoping to be able to call as well, but again, there was so much effort put in with such little outcome that it's kind of hard for me to give it to him. And I feel like that was really kind of shown on both sides. So based on what we got from the episode, because a lot of it too is kind of what they show us, and sometimes if we had more information about what some of the others would be doing, it might kind of change what we say. But James, personally, because I feel like he was the only one that was really able to, after the tide started turning against Ryan, he was like, I'm not quite ready to pull that trigger, and so he was able to maneuver. Because I really don't think had James not persuaded towards the end, that we would have seen Janine go home. That's just my opinion.
Yep.
But that's kind of where I stand. So James is my MVP this week. Based on your reaction, I don't think that he's yours. So I'm curious to see.
You can absolutely think James the MVP. You're wrong, but
Okay.
you can absolutely think, because there's
Okay.
only one answer here, and
Okay.
I'll put it.
Oh Lord, it's
you're
on
not gonna be
parchment
able to see
paper, isn't it?
it. Yeah, you're not gonna be able to see it. There's only one person in this entire game right now that is in the 7. Okay, that has a power position in the 7,
Yeah.
okay, is able to sway the votes, and also has 2 hidden immunity idols.
Okay,
in
yeah,
his
that's
pocket.
where I thought you were going.
Yeah, no,
Jesse.
there's only one person that deserves an MVP this week, and that's the guy who has 2 hidden immunity idols
That's
in his
true.
pocket from
That's not
last week.
unfair.
It's just there's only one right. It's Jesse, by the way. We do have some chats that we should go over.
Yes.
before
So Marine saying she missed the episode. So the person voted out this week was Janine.
The person that we kept forgetting about in the entire
Yes.
show went
Yes.
home, and that's why we're not having an hour and 45-minute discussion.
Yep.
We're gonna be on time because we got nothing for you.
Yeah. So it was Janine that ended up going out. Her idol, she, as we saw last week, went to Dwight, but Dwight actually, they didn't show us last week. He gave his idol to Jesse, and that is why Jesse now has 2 idols. He already had one before that.
He is the
That is
MVP.
why he is your MVP. So that's
No, not my MVP. He is the MVP.
That's who you had put down. That's
not
who you put
acknowledging
down.
James.
Yes. Okay.
It's written down. It's
yes.
scratched out. Like it's
Yes. Okay. So you wrote it down, but you also took it away. Okay.
Yes.
All right. But yeah, and so we did see that there was a lot of talk. Ryan really put himself in some hot water again, and it didn't go the way he was hoping, or it did go the way he was hoping. It didn't go the way other people were hoping, and it still didn't go the way Ryan was hoping. He just doesn't know that because he was very close to being the target this week. But Janine was the one that ended up going out. All right. So that is. Do you have anything else?
No. This was.
All right.
I feel really bad. Janine, the entire time she was the one person that I genuinely. I would go over like, okay, this person's here, this person's here, this person. She's always the one that I forgot about.
Yep.
And that's nothing to who she is as a person, nothing to how she was portrayed in the game. It's just genuinely she didn't get to contribute. She is the first member of our jury.
Yep.
And that is a great milestone to get to.
And you know what? I do think for as little as we saw her playing the game, I think she's going to end up having a decent amount of sway, at least early on in the jury. I think she has that ability as a speaker because there's several times when, she talked a huge game. There were several times where she was like, I am on the top, when she wasn't, but she really thought she was, and she was talking, and she kind of made it look like if you weren't paying attention to what was going on, that between her and Ellie, that they actually kind of had things going. They didn't, but I feel like just that ability to kind of talk and set what you want, I think she's really going to have, at least early on, a pretty big sway. I mean, you already usually get a decent sway as the first juror anyway by default. It doesn't last very long, but I think she might be able to carry that on. And again, not to say she's going to determine who the winner is, but I think her voice will be heard loud, and she's not going to back down from that. So
we've seen a lot.
And just
of
to say,
talkers.
Maureen, yes, she is the one with the busted up chin. Sorry, she's the one that.
That weird patch. Yeah. We've seen a lot of talkers go home early this year. Gio thought he was at the top of his alliance. Yeah. The blonde woman that I had. Hold on. What was
Lindsay?
Her name? Lindsay. Yes, Lindsay. She was a big talker. Ellie was a big talker with Janine. Like there were a lot of big talkers this season. And if you notice, the people that just kind of put their head down and went to work. Sammy's a big talker, but genuinely he flip-flopped between his alliance, so I don't necessarily count him as like one of those big talkers. But a lot of talkers went home this season, and genuinely, like I said, Janine, just nothing to her gameplay. It just she didn't make good enough bonds. That's all you can say about her.
Yep, for sure. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for stopping by. If you're watching this stream, you're watching after the fact. I think most people here that we have right now are some of our regulars. But if you're watching after the fact and you're looking for more content, more people to cover Survivor, come join us. Hit that subscribe button. Like the video if you did. It really helps us out. We have a lot of fun here, and we're here every week. And we just love hanging out and talking about Survivor and chatting with you guys. So if you come live, we usually go live 15 to 20 minutes after the episode airs. So you can jump in the chat and throw your comments, questions in there. If you guys have comments and questions about the episode during the chat, we love to bring you guys on and cover those live here with you. So other than that, make sure to subscribe to Dylan's channel. It's in the link below. There's nothing there yet. Eventually there will be.
After
we're
this
working
season,
after this
this
season.
season of Survivor,
Yeah,
we're
we
gonna start knocking some stuff out.
Yeah, we're gonna start doing some of the more fun stuff that you guys have been hearing about for a while. I'm excited about the name. Have we said the name of like what we're doing? I know what I've called it.
Well, so it's book club. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
book
just
club.
it's book
Yeah,
club.
so I'm excited. Like obviously we're excited for Survivor Book Club. I'm really excited for doing it Big Brother just because I think the name BB Book Club sounds freaking awesome. So I'm excited for that. But we're gonna have our book clubs over there, and I think you guys are really gonna enjoy what we got planned. So after the season's out, then we will certainly head over there and start covering some of that. But yeah, guys, we have a lot of fun. So every Wednesday, stop on by and you'll see us cover more Survivor. Other than that, anything else from you tonight, Dylan?
No, good episode.
All
I'm
right.
excited to see what happens with Ryan
Yep.
next week.
Yep, I'm excited to see if he implodes or is able to skate by one more week. All right, well, we will see you guys next time. Everyone, have a good night. And yeah, see you next week. Have a good one.